Hey, glad to be with you guys again as Georgia is now 1-0, gets to come home and play this weekend, the home opener Saturday afternoon against the Blazers of UAB, Alabama Birmingham, coming to town. Third meeting between the two schools. And we've got DJ Shockley and Eric Zier here to give us a little bit of a preview and give us their thoughts on Georgia and UAB and the match coming up. And first of all, guys, hi again. Good to see you. And let's kind of clean up last week, if you don't mind. What a defensive performance by Georgia. I go right to the 7 sacks by 6 different guys. That's an impressive statistic to me. Shock, I'll get your thoughts on that. What does that tell you about Georgia's defense when you can have that many sacks by that many different players?
I mean, it's legit. I mean, it tells you right away that this is a team that expects to be really good on the defensive side of the ball. And I think we've known this since day one that Kirby walked into the Butsman building being a defensive guy, that this defense will be elite. And you just look the way they recruit. They recruit elite defensive players. They recruit guys who can play multiple spots, who can stand up, who can play in coverage. I know, Z talked about it a lot on the call, and just how most of the time it was just 3, 4, 5 guys, and the ability to get home with just 3 down linemen or 4 down linemen, it speaks volume, especially when you're less experienced from the back end, to be able to get to the quarterback and put pressure on them. It's big. So whenever you put pressure on the team like Clemson and that caliber, it tells you what you're looking forward to. Now, the bar's been set now. That's the only thing about it. The standard has been set. So if UAB rushes for more than 2 yards, there may be an uproar in this ball game. So we'll see. But it was definitely fun to see, fun to watch. I know me and Z as former QBs looking at how they were coming after it was, man, it was fun to watch and glad to be on that side of it for sure.
I was going to say, just glad you're not back there in the pocket having to run from all that.
I know, right?
Z, last 2 games, Georgia has played a combined 15 sacks, 8 against Cincinnati in the bowl game, and then 7 last week. I mean, the hits just keep on coming.
Yeah, they really do. I obviously everything that Shock just said, I completely agree with. I'll add on to that though, because I don't think we're giving enough, or there's not enough talk right now about the Georgia secondary. Coming into this year, it was the big question mark on the defensive side of the ball. And when you go back and look at film, or as you're watching the game in person, the windows to throw into were so tight. There was very little opening to get the football into, and that contributed to so many of the sacks that we had, right? So if you're able as a quarterback to drop back on time and get the football out of your hands, so you're hitting the first or the second guy in a progression, you can minimize some of that pressure just by being on time. Well, Clemson couldn't do that last week. The windows were so tight that DJ had to hold the football and try to find his third and fourth guys in a progression, and there was just no way to go do it because the rush was so relentless. So kudos as well to a rebuilt Georgia secondary that had I thought a phenomenal game, a couple of pass interference penalties, but those are aggressive penalties, right? You're going to want to go see that in games, clean some of those penalties up, but the tightness of coverage, the multiple coverage, they played smart, a lot of different looks to create confusion. It takes an entire team working together to have 7 sacks or to have 15 in the past 2 games. But that Georgia secondary did a great job as well.
And let me add one thing to that, Z. When you mentioned that, the multitude of coverages, and I want to go back to that interception, and you're talking about the attention to detail from the secondary. What Chris Smith did there, obviously you get the pressure off that right-hand side, but if you watch the play, you watch the video, and fans can go back and look at it, on the snap of the ball, he puts his butt to the inside because he knows he has the inside. He's the one that got to beat him to the inside. And then he gets to the inside and then finds the eyes of the quarterback and drives on the football. I don't think that happens if you don't prepare the way you're supposed to, or you don't know where you're supposed to be in the secondary, or you don't feel as though you're experienced enough to be there. That was just one of the detail plays I thought that was probably the biggest difference in the ballgame. Obviously, he was in this perfect spot where he's supposed to be doing what he's supposed to do. Everybody has their own job, and he did his 1/11th on that play, and it ended up being a big play for the entire team. So it was pretty cool to watch that part. So it was definitely a good point on the secondary.
Got a team this week whose quarterback is not quite as hyped as the one we saw last week, but
Really?
Tyler Johnston looks to be a pretty good quarterback. I saw a little bit of the Jacksonville State performance. He only had four incomplete passes. He was 17 of 21, a couple of touchdown throws, no picks. What are your thoughts on this guy and the difference that he will be on Saturday compared to what Georgia saw last week?
I'll start, Z. I guess the biggest thing is just this guy is accurate. The ball comes out of his hands. He's not holding on to it. I know part of it last week was the different looks like Z talked about, and as far as being hit early in that ball game, Georgia did to DJ. But I think in this ball game, you're going to get a quarterback, the ball's going to be out of his hands. He's not looking to hold on to it. He knows the speed of Georgia. And like you mentioned, 4 incompletions in his last game. And I went back and looked at some of the stuff he did last year. This guy has 7 touchdowns to 1 interception, 2 touchdowns to 0 interceptions starting this year. So the one thing you know is he takes care of the football. He's conscious of getting his guys in the right spots in the right position, and he's not going to turn it over. So expect a more efficient quarterback this week and expect the ball to be coming out of his hands more quickly than it was last week, I should say.
Well, Shock, I will tell you, DJ was for Clemson was a pretty efficient quarterback coming in before he faced our defense as well. One thing that you know about UAB, their head coach is a great football coach. He has done a remarkable job at UAB. So you know his guys are going to be keyed in. They're going to be locked in, not just the quarterback, but everybody else on that football team. But no doubt he is very efficient. He is accurate. He is a good football player. He hasn't seen the likes of this Georgia defense. Truth is, most quarterbacks around the country haven't seen the likes of what this Georgia defense can bring. But you get Georgia on tape one week. One of the advantages that we had last week is that we haven't been on tape with this defensive unit. So a lot of things that were coming out are going to be surprises. They're not going to be new looks. So I would expect UAB to come out and be able to scheme, get prepared for some of the looks that we've seen. Now, we've got more looks in our bag of tricks as well. But this is a well-coached football team. They're going to go out and make plays. You have to expect that. The bar has been set high, as Shock just mentioned. And that's a little unfair to this Georgia defense. But UAB is a good football team. Obviously, we should win the game handily. We should be fine in everything that we do. But I do expect to see a quarterback, an offense, and a defensive unit, honestly, from UAB that is ready to play and is sound, that we just ultimately wear down over time.
I want to know from you guys what Georgia is thinking about offensively this week. We didn't have stellar numbers last week. We didn't have an offensive touchdown. What are we doing this week to rectify those situations?
Because I'll jump in here, Shock, on to start here. One, I wouldn't put too much stock into last week. Clemson, as good as our defense is, Clemson is right up there with us. Clemson is aggressive. They are fast. They are experienced. They play hard. They know where they're supposed to be. So I think a lot of what we did was to try to protect JT Daniels, get the football out of his hands, and keep the game within reach. Play to the defense that was playing so well. So I think a lot of that was by design. This week, I think you see us getting much more aggressive, pushing the football down the field, airing it out a little bit, and getting much more aggressive in our thought process and where we're going with the football, not losing our identity. I think we're going to continue to run the football because it's who we are, but I do expect us to get much more aggressive and try to create explosiveness within the offense.
And Z, to your point there, just as much as UAB now has film on us, it's the same thing for last week. We didn't have much film or know what to expect from a Clemson defense. And being on the sideline, I had a unique opportunity to be able to talk to JT during the game. I talked to Warren Erickson during the game, and they both mentioned that Clemson was doing things that they really didn't do in the last season. They came in with new wrinkles. They played more zone, as we know. They muddied the water up front in the run game. So there were some advantages for both sides when you don't play, a game the week before. Now coming to this game, I think you'll see more of what Georgia wants to do and be able to do in this game. And this is an opportunity where obviously we know UAB is not the same caliber player as Clemson were, and you're going to have an opportunity to have more things at your disposal. And UAB is going to determine, hey, do we want to take away the run game? Want to take away the pass game? Want to play more coverage? Want to play less guys in the box? I mean, they have to make those decisions when it comes to this ball game, and I think there'll be more opportunities in this game than it was last week. And like you mentioned, I mean, last week was a hell of a defense in Clemson, and they got after you. So no reason to hang your head. We know you want to score points. We expect better, but that was a heck of a defense, and it was tough sledding on both sides.
We're still not at full capacity at wide receiver. Your thoughts on last week's performance and how we can upgrade that? Z, start with you.
Yeah, no doubt we're not at full strength on the receiver. You look at the guys who got the majority of the playing time, freshmen and redshirt freshmen pretty much across the board. Super impressed, as I have been since he stepped on campus with Brock Bowers. Just thought he did a fantastic job. We've got talent. We've got athleticism there. But it will, when you're young and you're playing in that kind of a spotlight for the first time, there's some growing pains. And you're playing against the elite. I mean, make no mistake about it. Clemson's defensive secondary, they're elite. That defense is elite. So you got tested right off the bat. I do expect continued growth from them as we move through the season, and obviously as we begin to get people back, it's going to add an explosiveness to this offense that we're not going to see with these young guys in there. I mean, it takes a good 6-7 games before you really get your feet under you, where you're not thinking about what you're supposed to do. You're out reacting. And when you're out reacting, you play at a different gear. You play with athleticism, and you're playing as fast as you can possibly play. We're 6-7 games away from that when we've got freshmen and redshirt freshmen in the game. As we start to get some of these guys back that have been through the fires, you'll see the speed of our offense increase. The guys that we've got, I was very impressed with them. Thought they did a fine job. They'll grow as the season gets deeper into the year. But it will take a while if it's just these guys that we've got for them really to get their feet underneath them.
And see, I'll add to the point, especially when you have so many young guys and they're learning how to play against guys that they haven't seen. And think about it, last week, they're playing against new techniques. They're playing against different guys. For all of fall camp, they're going against guys that they know. They know if they get pressed, man, this guy's going to jam him with his right hand, or they're going to step with his hand, or they're going to play a little bit softer coverage in cover two. They're learning how to move within a ball game. And once they get that experience, I think going forward, they'll understand that it's not all about that guy in front of you. It's all about how I play. And I think right now they're more reacting to the player as more than reacting to themselves and the game and their offense. And I think it just comes with reps. And I think that's something that fans have to realize is in this league, stuff moves really, really fast. And if you don't have the experience, you have to learn on the move. So I'm glad that we're getting this experience early in the year and these guys getting to play these big-time ball games because, like you mentioned, 6, 7, 8 games down the road, it's going to be huge for these guys that got a chance to play early in the season, and they'll be able to kind of build on what they had going on in the first part of the season to have a better end of the season.
Home opener this Saturday, Georgia, UAB, Sanford Stadium at Dooley Field. Kickoff will be just a few minutes after 3:30, 3:35 with a possible 5-minute slide in TV talk. And our coverage begins at 11:30 right here on the Georgia Bulldogs Sports Network. So we hope you can join us. DJ Shockley and Eric Zier, thanks so much for your time as always. We will see you guys on Saturday, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.